The alley was dark and cold. Snow and frost coated the walls of the crowded space station, making it look empty even though thousands of beings moved in the city above. But in the shadows of the lower levels, a small sound echoed, a tiny cry that no one seemed to notice. Marla, a human grandmother with a warm scarf wrapped around her neck, shuffled down the alley. She had come to pick up some supplies from a nearby market, but the noise made her stop. The cry was soft, trembling, almost too weak to hear. She leaned closer, squinting in the dim light. There, curled in a corner, was a small alien baby. Its skin was pale green, covered in tiny scales, and its eyes, big and shiny, were filled with fear. The baby shivered violently in the freezing air, trying to curl into itself for warmth. Marla's heart ached. She had seen abandoned children before, both human and alien, but something about this one was different. She could feel its fear, its helplessness. Without thinking, she knelt down, careful not to startle it, and whispered softly, "It's okay, little one. Grandma's here now." The baby flinched but did not move away. It looked at her with wide eyes, fragile and uncertain. Marla slowly pulled her scarf from around her neck and wrapped it gently around the child. The warmth from her human body and the soft fabric seemed to calm it slightly. Its small hands twitched, reaching toward her, and she held them carefully. From above, alien passers-by paused at the sight. Some whispered to each other, shaking their heads. "Don't touch it," one hissed. "It carries unknown energy. It could be dangerous." Marla ignored them. "Dangerous?" she asked quietly. "It's freezing and alone. What could be more dangerous than that?" The baby made a tiny, pitiful sound, and Marla felt her resolve strengthen. She scooped it up carefully, holding it close to her chest. Its body was so small and frail that she felt responsible for every shiver, every tremble. She glanced at the neon signs and flickering lights above the alley. The bustling city seemed far away, distant and indifferent. Here in the shadows life was hard. Many had passed by the baby, too busy or too afraid to help. But Marla was not afraid. She had lived a long life on Earth, and in her years she had learned that courage was sometimes as simple as picking up a small, cold life and holding it close. "Let's get you somewhere warm," she whispered. As she stepped forward, a tall alien with dark scales and glowing eyes appeared at the end of the alley. Its voice was low and urgent. "Stop. You cannot take it. This child is not yours." Marla's eyes met the alien's. She could see fear, confusion, and anger in its expression, but she also saw doubt. She smiled gently. "I don't want to take it away from anyone. I just don't want it to freeze to death." The alien hesitated, unsure how to respond. Marla continued walking slowly, the baby safe in her arms, wrapped tightly in her scarf. Other beings watched silently, some curious, some frightened. As they moved toward her small apartment, Marla felt the baby's breathing start to slow. The warmth of her coat and her steady heartbeat calmed it. She whispered stories of Earth, of gardens, and of sunsets, even though the baby did not understand the words. The sound of a gentle voice, steady and kind, seemed to soothe the trembling alien. Inside her apartment, Marla set the baby on a soft blanket near a small heater. She had blankets, warm food, and a few human comforts that could help. The baby's eyes, still wide and cautious, followed every movement. Marla sat beside it, holding its small hands. She studied its delicate features, the way its tiny fingers flexed, the faint shimmer of its skin under the apartment lights. She had seen many species in her life, but this one was fragile in a way that demanded care, patience, and kindness. A knock came at the door. Marla's heart jumped. She quickly stood, shielding the baby with her body. Peering through the peephole, she saw two uniformed aliens, looking official and serious. "We have been informed of an abandoned alien infant," one said in a firm voice. "This child must be returned to the authorities." Marla shook her head. "It is too cold outside. It was left to freeze. If you take it now, it could die." The aliens exchanged glances. "We have no choice," the first said. Marla stepped back, holding the baby closer. "Listen," she said gently but firmly. "I am human. I have raised children, cared for species in danger, and survived harsh conditions. I know what this child needs right now. If you are concerned, watch me. See how I care for it. Do not take it until it is warm, safe, and strong enough to survive." The aliens hesitated. They had seen humans before, resourceful, clever, and surprisingly compassionate, but they had never seen one challenge authority for the sake of another species. Slowly they nodded, unsure but willing to trust her at least for the moment. Marla returned to the baby, wrapping it in even more blankets. She hummed softly, letting the warmth of her voice fill the room. The baby's tiny body began to relax. Its eyes blinked slowly, and for the first time since she had found it, it made a small, content sound. Marla smiled. See? You're safe now. No one will leave you alone here. Not while I'm around. The aliens at the door watched silently, realizing that this human grandmother had a kind of courage and empathy they could not fully understand. She was small, frail-looking, and ordinary by human standards, but in her actions she displayed something extraordinary. Hours passed. Marla fed the baby carefully, keeping it warm, talking to it, and watching its every move. She noticed its tiny hands trying to mimic hers, its eyes tracking her face, its breathing slow and steady. She knew that with care, patience, and protection, the child could survive and grow strong. The night wore on, and the freezing alley outside became distant, almost forgotten. The city's noises faded behind her apartment walls. For now the alien baby was safe. It had warmth, it had care, and it had a human who refused to leave it alone. Marla looked at the sleeping child in her arms and whispered, "Don't worry, little one. We'll face this galaxy together. No one will abandon you again." Outside, the wind howled through the station alleys, but inside there was warmth, safety, and the beginning of a bond that could change everything. For the first time since being left alone in the freezing alley, the alien baby was not afraid. It had hope. And it had a human grandmother. Marla sat in her small, cozy apartment, the alien baby nestled in her arms. The warmth of the blankets and the soft glow of the lights made the room feel safe, a stark contrast to the freezing alley where she had found him. She had never seen a creature so fragile and small, yet it seemed to hold something mysterious inside. The baby stirred, blinking its large green eyes at her. Its skin shimmered faintly under the light, almost like it contained tiny sparks of energy. Marla tilted her head, curious. She had seen many strange creatures in her life, but none like this. Something about him felt unusual. "You're different, little one," she whispered softly. "I wonder what secrets you hide." For the next few days, Marla devoted herself to caring for the baby. She fed him a mixture of nutrients she had borrowed from human and alien recipes, kept him warm, and spoke to him constantly. Slowly she began to notice strange things. The baby seemed to understand more than a typical infant should. When she hummed or told a story, he would move in rhythm, almost like he recognized the patterns in her voice. One morning, Marla watched as the baby touched a small holographic projector she had set up for entertainment. With a gentle tap, the hologram shifted, as if the baby understood how to control it. Marla blinked in surprise. You understand technology?" she asked softly. The baby blinked back at her, a small coo escaping his lips. She decided to investigate further. She carefully placed different objects near him, small lights, floating devices, and even a tiny translator. To her amazement, the baby learned quickly. He seemed to recognize patterns, adjust to tools, and even respond to commands with gestures. In just a few hours, he could interact with devices better than some older aliens Marla had known. Marla realized the baby was more than just a fragile alien. He was intelligent, observant, and unusually quick to learn. But there was something else. When she accidentally grazed his arm with her hand, she noticed a faint warmth spreading from his skin. It was soft, gentle, and strangely comforting. "Little one, do you heal?" Marla asked quietly, her eyes widening. She pressed her finger lightly against a small scratch she had on her hand. For a moment, she felt a subtle tingling sensation, and when she looked again, the scratch was already less noticeable. The baby cooed, watching her reaction as if he understood the effect he had caused. Marla gasped. You're a healer." The thought ran through her mind. This baby, abandoned and fragile, held power that could change lives. Not only could he survive where others might fail, but he could help others survive as well. That night, Marla placed the baby near a small communication device. She had been recording everything she observed, hoping that someone, scientist or not, might help her understand this mysterious child. As she watched, the baby began to mimic sounds from the device. His soft coos matched the tones exactly. Marla's heart raced. He was learning a language. "Languages, you understand them already?" she whispered, amazed. The baby blinked slowly as if confirming. It was incredible. He was an infant by age, but his mind was extraordinary. The next morning there was a knock at the door. Marla's heart skipped a beat. She quickly covered the baby with a blanket. Peering through the peephole, she saw two aliens in official uniforms. They had come again. Marla opened the door cautiously. "Yes? Can I help you?" One alien spoke, his voice sharp but controlled. "We have reason to believe you are harboring an alien infant with unknown abilities. You must bring the child to the authorities immediately for examination. Marla held the baby close, feeling the warmth of his tiny body against her chest. She shook her head. He was abandoned. He was left to die in a freezing alley. I cannot give him to anyone who would see him as a tool or a threat. He needs care, not judgment. The aliens hesitated. They had not expected such defiance from a human, especially a grandmother. One whispered to the other, clearly conflicted. Finally, the taller one said, "We will observe. But you must cooperate with our tests to ensure the child's safety." Marla nodded, though her hands tightened protectively around the baby. She would cooperate, but only if the child's well-being came first. For the next few days, alien scientists visited her apartment under careful supervision. They ran harmless scans and simple tests, measuring the baby's reactions and monitoring his growth. Each time, Marla watched closely, noting how he responded to the environment, to her touch, and even to minor challenges. The baby's abilities amazed everyone. He emitted a gentle healing energy, calming small injuries and soothing stress in anyone near him. He responded to devices, understood language patterns, and seemed to recognize emotional cues. Even the most skeptical scientists had to admit that he was extraordinary. Marla realized that the baby's abilities were not just useful, they were a bridge between species. He could show aliens and humans alike that cooperation was possible, that empathy and care could produce results stronger than weapons or force. One evening she sat beside the baby, stroking his small green head. "You're special," she whispered. "Not because you're strong or powerful, but because you can make others stronger. You can heal, teach, and unite." The baby blinked at her and let out a small coo as if agreeing. Marla knew she had a responsibility now. She could not keep the baby hidden forever, but she also could not allow him to fall into hands that would exploit him. She needed to teach him, protect him, and help him grow safely until the world could understand what he truly was. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in silence. Inside, Marla and the alien baby sat together, two beings from different worlds connected by trust, care, and the quiet understanding that they were both alone in the galaxy in some way. The baby's secret was out. He was not just abandoned. He was extraordinary. And under Marla's protection he would survive, grow, and maybe even change the way the galaxy saw humans, aliens, and the power of compassion. Marla smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "We'll figure this out together, little one. You're safe now, and no one will leave you alone again." For the first time the alien baby relaxed fully, curling against Marla's chest. He had a protector, a teacher, and a grandmother. And with her guidance, he would discover the true extent of his gifts, and the galaxy would begin to notice. The morning air on Station Helion was sharp and cold, even inside the city corridors. Marla woke to the soft coos of the alien baby, who was already alert and observing the small apartment around them. The warmth of blankets and heaters had kept him safe through the night, but outside, danger was growing. News had spread quickly. Some factions of aliens had discovered the presence of the abandoned baby and claimed that he belonged to their species. They called him the Lost Heir, and demanded his return. According to them, humans had no right to care for him. Marla sighed as she wrapped the baby in a thick scarf. "Looks like we're not going to have peace for a while," she murmured. She had expected that keeping the baby safe would be simple, but now the galaxy itself seemed intent on hunting them. By mid-morning the first warning came. A group of alien enforcers, tall and armored, had been seen patrolling near her sector. They moved silently, but the scanners in the city detected them. Marla knew she had no choice but to act fast. She picked up the baby carefully and placed him in a portable protective pod, designed to keep him warm and shielded. She slung it over her shoulder and headed out the service corridors. The city above was crowded with beings going about their day, but down below the shadows were quiet, perfect for moving unnoticed. The first enforcer saw her as she slipped through a narrow tunnel. He raised a communicator, and within moments, more enforcers appeared, surrounding the area. Marla's heart raced. She needed to keep calm. Panic would endanger the baby. She ducked into a maintenance hatch, pulling the pod close. "Easy, little one," she whispered. The baby cooed softly, sensing her tension. Even now, he seemed aware of the dangers around him, looking out of the small transparent window as if understanding the pursuit. The enforcers were fast, but Marla knew the tunnels better than anyone. She led them on a chase through the maintenance labyrinth, ducking under pipes, slipping past vents, and using small crawl spaces where no larger alien could follow. Every step she took required focus. One wrong turn and the baby could fall or the pursuers could catch up. After an hour of careful maneuvering, Marla paused in a hidden alcove. She set the pod down and peered through a small vent into a wider corridor. The enforcers were still searching, calling out for her and the baby, but they hadn't noticed her position. Marla exhaled, rubbing her tired arms. "We're not safe yet," she said quietly. "But we're clever and we can do this." She had always known humans were underestimated. Now every moment proved it. She was small, ordinary by appearance, yet her knowledge, courage, and determination gave her an advantage the enforcers did not expect. She moved again, taking a different route toward an abandoned sector of the station. This area was quiet, almost forgotten, with old corridors and unused service elevators. Marla had spent years exploring these sectors when she first arrived at Hellan. Now that knowledge was saving their lives. Suddenly she heard a loud crash behind her. One of the enforcers had spotted a shadow, and the pursuit intensified. Marla's heart thumped. She had to keep moving. She ducked into a narrow stairwell and carried the pod down several levels. The baby's coos grew louder, almost as if he sensed the danger and wanted her to hurry. At the bottom, Marla reached an old storage chamber filled with crates and containers. She pushed a few aside to create a hidden corner. Setting the pod down, she activated the small cloaking device she had bought from a merchant. It emitted a faint shimmer, blending the pod with the surroundings. From above, the enforcers shouted, frustrated by her disappearance. They combed the corridors and scanned the area, but the cloaking worked perfectly. Marla held her breath, feeling the baby squirm slightly in his pod. "Shoo shoo, it's okay," she whispered. "You're safe for now." Hours passed. The enforcers eventually moved on, assuming she had escaped through other exits. Marla did not relax. She knew they would return, possibly with more forces. She used the quiet time to observe the baby. His eyes were bright, alert, and curious. Even in the pod, he seemed aware of her protective presence. Marla realized that the baby's abilities were growing. Small movements of his hands caused subtle changes in the pod's internal environment. Temperature regulation adjusted automatically, and the lights inside the pod shifted in response to his mood. She could feel a faint warmth emanating from him, like a protective field. "He's learning," Marla whispered. "You're learning faster than I imagined." She smiled, feeling a sense of pride mixed with concern. The galaxy was hunting him, and yet he was becoming stronger, smarter, and more aware with each passing hour. Later, she moved the pod again, taking a circuitous route to the old industrial sector. She passed through abandoned workshops and storage rooms, avoiding areas with high traffic. The baby's coos guided her, almost as if he knew which paths were safest. By nightfall, Marla reached a secure location, a small abandoned warehouse with thick walls and no external sensors. She set up the pod in the center and added blankets, heaters, and soft padding. The baby curled up inside, relaxing for the first time in hours. Marla finally allowed herself to breathe. Sitting beside the pod, she thought about what had happened. The pursuit had been relentless, but her human resourcefulness had kept them safe. She realized that humans were underestimated for a reason. Aliens often measured strength by size, power, or weapons. But humans relied on cleverness, adaptability, and empathy. She had used all three to protect the baby. Marla also realized the baby's abilities could be crucial for survival. He was fragile, yes, but also extraordinary. If aliens wanted him for power, they underestimated the humans who protected him. She would continue to stay ahead, using every skill she had learned over decades of life to keep the child safe. Hours passed into night, and the warehouse was quiet. The city above seemed distant, as if another world existed outside. Marla sat with the baby, stroking his soft, green skin, feeling the faint warmth of his healing energy. "You're safe now, little one," she whispered. "We've escaped the hunters, but we must stay clever. The galaxy doesn't understand you yet, and they might not understand me either. But together, we can survive anything." The baby cooed almost as if agreeing. Marla smiled. She knew the hunt was far from over, but she also knew this. Aliens might underestimate humans, but they could never match human determination, ingenuity, or love. And as long as she had breath, she would keep the alien baby alive. She would hide him, teach him, and protect him. No one would take him from her. Not now, not ever. Outside, the cold winds of the station howled through the alleys and corridors. Inside, Marla and the baby sat together in the warehouse, two beings from different worlds, united in survival, trust, and the quiet understanding that the hunt had only just begun. Marla had just settled into a quiet night in her safe warehouse when the alarms on Station Hellan rang loud and clear. She froze, her heart racing. The enforcers had never been able to track her here. How had they found her? Before she could move, A calm but powerful voice echoed through the intercom. Human Marla, step forward. The Galactic Council requires your cooperation. Marla's hands tightened around the alien baby's pod. She had expected more enforcers, not the Council itself. Her mind raced. The Council was the highest authority in the galaxy, overseeing disputes, species protection, and interstellar law. If they had intervened, this situation had become serious. Carefully, she unstrapped the baby from the pod and held him close. His small hands reached for her face, cooing softly. "It's okay," she whispered. "We will be brave. We always are." A transport pod descended outside the warehouse. The doors opened, revealing a group of aliens in flowing, ceremonial robes. They were taller than most, their eyes glowing faintly, and their presence radiated authority. Marla's heart pounded, but she squared her shoulders. She would not let fear show. "Human Marla," one of the counselors said, her voice both stern and curious, "we are aware that you are harboring an abandoned alien infant. Reports indicate he possesses unique abilities. You have defied enforcers and hidden him from his own species. Explain your actions." Marla held the baby close. "He was left in a freezing alley. No one cared for him. If I hadn't acted, he would have died. I only want to protect him." A murmur ran through the counselors. One of them, tall with dark scales, stepped forward. "You claim to care for him, yet you are human. Your species is untested in these matters. How can we trust that you are acting in his best interest?" Marla looked the counselor in the eye. "I am a grandmother. I have cared for children of my own species and others. I have survived harsh worlds and protected those who cannot protect themselves. You may doubt humans, but I promise you, I will not harm him." The counselors conferred among themselves, speaking in low tones. Finally, the first one spoke again. "We have observed your actions. Your resourcefulness and empathy are unusual among humans but undeniable. We are curious about this child and his abilities. If your care is genuine, perhaps humans can play a role we had not considered." Marla raised an eyebrow. "A role?" "Yes," the counselor said. "We see that this child is extraordinary. He emits a healing energy, demonstrates advanced intelligence, and interacts with technology in ways beyond normal development. If humans can care for him safely, perhaps they can help stabilize and protect vulnerable species across the galaxy." Marla's heart skipped a beat. She had never imagined that humans, her species, could gain trust from the Council. She nodded slowly. "I will do whatever I can to help. But first we must ensure the child is safe. Nothing else matters until then." The counselors studied her carefully. The baby stirred in her arms, cooing softly, almost as if understanding that the humans had just been offered a chance. "You are brave," said a female counselor with shimmering scales. "You act not out of power but empathy. That is rare. We will allow you to continue caring for the child under our supervision. You will report to us regularly, and we will observe his development." Marla exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. "Thank you. I promise he will be safe and he will grow strong under my care." The counselor nodded. "We have one more concern. The factions that claim the child are growing restless. They may attempt to take him by force. You must be prepared to defend him, but do so without harming others unnecessarily. Humans have qualities we do not fully understand. Use them wisely." Marla hugged the baby close. "I understand. We'll manage." Over the following days, council representatives came regularly. They brought equipment, scanners, and holographic displays to observe the baby. Marla allowed it but always kept her protective stance. The baby seemed comfortable with the counselors, perhaps sensing that they too respected his guardian. During one visit, a council scientist asked Marla to demonstrate the baby's abilities. She gently placed his hands near a small, shallow wound she had on her arm. The baby cooed and a faint warmth spread from his skin. Within moments, the scratch began to heal. The scientist's eyes widened. "Remarkable," the counselor whispered. "The human has not only protected him but fostered his abilities. You see, this child thrives under care, not confinement." Marla nodded. "That's all he needs. Love and safety. That's what any child needs, regardless of species." Another counselor spoke. "Your actions are teaching us something important. Humans are underestimated. You rely not on power or strength but on cunning, care, and understanding. Perhaps this is why you were able to protect him when others could not." Marla smiled faintly. "We adapt. We survive. And we protect those who cannot protect themselves." The council observed her for a long moment, and finally the head counselor said, "We will grant humans a provisional role in the protection of endangered species. You will continue to care for the infant, and other humans may be called to assist in similar missions. This is unprecedented. Marla's eyes widened. You mean humans could help others across the galaxy? Yes, the counselor said. Your compassion, ingenuity, and adaptability are unmatched. You may be small, but your impact could be immense. Marla looked down at the alien baby in her arms. He cooed and stretched, reaching for her face. For the first time, she realized that protecting him had already changed something. Humans could make a difference. Not through weapons, not through power, but through care, intelligence, and courage. We'll do it, she said softly. We'll make sure he thrives, and maybe help others too. The counselors nodded, their eyes showing a mixture of curiosity and respect. They had come expecting confrontation, perhaps even rebellion. Instead, they found a human grandmother demonstrating courage and wisdom in its purest form. That night, Marla sat with the baby in her apartment, the city quiet outside. She thought about the future. She knew there would be more challenges, aliens who wanted the child, dangers she could not foresee, and a galaxy that was not always kind. But she also knew something vital. Humans had a role to play, one that no other species could fill. The alien baby stirred, his tiny green hand reaching for her cheek. Marla smiled and whispered, "We're ready for whatever comes next. Together we'll show the galaxy what humans can do." Outside, the cold winds howled through the station, but inside, a human and an extraordinary alien baby sat together in safety. The council had intervened, but the real lesson was clear. Empathy, cleverness, and courage could change everything, even in a galaxy that had once doubted humans. And so, a new chapter began. One where humans were no longer just bystanders but protectors, teachers, and allies in a vast, dangerous universe. Marla stood at the window of her small apartment on Station Helon, holding the alien baby close. The city outside was bright and bustling, filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. But for Marla, the world had become smaller, focused on the life of this tiny, extraordinary child she had saved. Months had passed since the council's intervention. During that time, the baby had grown stronger, smarter, and more aware. His skin shimmered faintly in the light, and small sparks of energy danced over his hands when he played. Marla had learned to understand him in ways that went beyond words. They had a bond that no one could break. The Galactic Council had kept their promise. Humans were now allowed a special role in caring for endangered or abandoned alien species. Marla had been invited to join a small team of human protectors. She had agreed, knowing that the baby's survival could inspire others and change the galaxy's perception of humans. Today was different though. Today they were leaving the city. Marla had prepared a small spacecraft, equipped with life support systems and a comfortable area for the baby. It was designed for travel across the stars, allowing them to find a place where the child could grow safely without fear of being hunted. "Are you ready, little one?" Marla whispered, brushing the baby's green-scaled head. The child cooed and reached for her face as if saying yes. She smiled and secured him in the soft harness she had made. The spacecraft lifted off smoothly, leaving Station Helion behind. Marla watched as the lights of the city faded into the distance. She felt a mixture of excitement and worry. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of possibilities. For the first time, she realized that they could shape their own future. During the journey, Marla taught the baby about the stars, the planets, and the different species they might encounter. Though he could not speak yet, he absorbed everything, his large eyes tracking the shifting constellations with fascination. He learned quickly, already showing signs of understanding human gestures and emotions. One night, while they were traveling through a quiet sector of space, Marla noticed the baby's hands glowing softly. A small energy field formed around him, stabilizing minor fluctuations in the spacecraft's systems. She gasped. "You're helping already?" she whispered. "Even in space you make things better." It was not long before they reached a distant, uninhabited planet. Marla had chosen it carefully. It had forests, fresh water, and gentle climates. Most importantly, it was far from factions that might wish to capture the child. Here they could start anew. Marla set up a small home using portable structures and alien technology she had gathered over time. She created safe spaces for the baby to explore, with areas for learning, playing, and practicing his abilities. The child moved carefully, curious about every new object, and Marla watched with pride. His small hands could already manipulate devices, heal minor injuries in the small animals she had brought for him, and even communicate simple ideas through gestures. The first few days were quiet. Marla and the baby explored the forests, collecting food and observing wildlife. The baby's presence seemed to calm other creatures. Birds landed nearby without fear, and small animals approached gently. Marla realized that his healing energy and empathy were growing stronger with every passing day. One evening, while they watched a sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, Marla spoke softly. "You see, little one, this is your home now. Safe, quiet, and full of life. You will grow strong here, and one day the galaxy will know what you can do." The baby reached for her hand, his small fingers curling around hers. Over the following months, Marla trained the child gently. She taught him about human emotions, problem-solving, and trust. He learned quickly, demonstrating intelligence beyond his apparent age. Aliens who had once doubted humans began to visit the planet, observing how well the child thrived under human care. They were amazed. The Galactic Council sent envoys to witness the progress. They saw that Marla had created more than just a safe home. She had built a sanctuary. The alien baby's growth was extraordinary, and the human's role in his care proved that empathy, intelligence, and adaptability could succeed where power and fear failed. One day, a scout ship arrived carrying several young aliens. They had been rescued from dangerous planets, abandoned or injured. Marla welcomed them carefully, introducing them to the baby, who seemed to understand that these new arrivals were also fragile and needed care. He emitted a soft glow, calming the frightened creatures. Marla smiled. This was more than she had imagined. She realized that together, humans and aliens could create a new model for survival and cooperation. The baby's fame grew slowly, but word spread across nearby star systems. Humans were no longer seen as ordinary or weak. They were recognized as protectors, caretakers, and innovators. Marla had not sought recognition, but she could see that her small act of courage, finding the abandoned child, had started a movement that could change the galaxy. Evenings became their favorite time. Marla and the baby would sit under the stars, the wind rustling the leaves of the alien forest, and she would tell him stories of Earth, of humans, and of kindness across the stars. He would listen, his eyes wide and sparkling, and sometimes coo softly as if responding with his own understanding. One quiet night, Marla looked at the stars and whispered, "We've made it, little one. You have a home, and humans have a place in this galaxy that no one expected. Together we've done something important. Together we will protect life wherever it is found." The alien baby reached for her face, wrapping his small hand around her cheek. Marla laughed softly, feeling a warmth that went deeper than anything she had ever known. She realized that the galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but with compassion, courage, and intelligence, humans could make a difference, sometimes in ways no one else could. From that day forward, the small planet became a safe haven. Other humans joined Marla, learning from her and working to protect endangered species. The alien baby thrived, growing stronger and more capable every day. His abilities became a bridge between humans and aliens, a symbol of hope, trust, and cooperation. Marla often thought back to the freezing alley where she had found him, shivering and alone. She smiled. It seemed impossible that such a fragile beginning could lead to this. A new home across the stars, a sanctuary of life and learning, and proof that humans, through courage and care, could change the galaxy. And as the twin moons rose over the horizon, casting their gentle light on the forest, Marla held the baby close and whispered, "This is just the beginning, little one. Together we will show the galaxy what humans can do." In the quiet of that new world, surrounded by life, warmth, and hope, the alien baby slept peacefully, safe in the arms of the human who had found him, and a new era had begun across the stars.